Welcome to the SavvyCast. This is Jamie, and I'm very grateful that you're either watching or listening. And today we're going to talk food, specifically Greek food, specifically Tzatzikis and Grk Street. And I would like to welcome my guest today, Keith Richards. Keith, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be on the SavvyCast.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. Good. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, Keith, I just want to start by saying I don't personally know anyone who doesn't love Tzatziki's. It's one of our favorites, and you've really built something, and that's part of what we want to talk about. But you've also got a new restaurant that we all love that have eaten there. So I want to talk food, but I want to also just talk about you as an entrepreneur, how you built such an empire of a restaurant business. But before we start, I ask every guest the same icebreaker question.
Okay.
What would you choose as your last meal? It doesn't mean you're on death row. Maybe you just know that you're about to die.
So somebody asked me that a while back, and I would say this: prior to my mom's death, it would have been her dressing, her turkey and dressing, or her mac and cheese. But now that she's gone and no longer with us, I can't say that because no one has yet, and we've tried. My stepmom has tried, and my sister, they've tried to create and replicate her recipe, and still haven't mastered it yet. So it can't be that.
Wow.
Honestly, wow, a last meal.
No calorie restrictions, nothing. Just, I know.
That's a tough one.
That really is.
Probably, dadgummit.
You don't think about food as much as
maybe I don't. Well, I'll tell you what. So my wife makes these. I think they're called Ranger cookies. If I had that in a glass of milk, I would be in heaven.
Oh, yum! Now I've never heard
she
of
spoils.
those.
So she spoils me. They are healthy. They're more oatmeal based, got a little chocolate, probably a little too much butter. But
Wow.
She made some the other night, and I was like, God, this is almost like heaven.
Oh, hey, maybe Amy will be willing to share that recipe. That's awesome.
She could do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just start with your family. You and Amy have two sets of twins. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I have Oliver and Maggie are my oldest set. They are both 19 and both at Samford University now. And then my younger set, they are 16 and they're at Indian Springs.
Okay, and, one of your sons checked me out at Grk Street when I drove through, and
that was Oliver. Yeah,
had the best manners ever. Y'all are doing something right. He was so polite.
He does that at work. He doesn't carry that. Doesn't carry to the house, I don't think.
Well,
but yeah. So he's had to retire that job to more become a student at Samford, but he may be coming back and working a little bit. But yeah, he's a good kid.
Awesome.
We're very blessed to have healthy kids.
Yeah. Well, I know that you and Amy were like Zane and I, y'all struggled for a while to have children. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And then you were blessed with double blessing twice. That's amazing. Yeah.
So we worked really hard for the first. It was kind of full disclosure. I think I gave Amy 176 something shots to help that process. Yeah. And then the other two were just a blessing. God said, hey, you're doing pretty good with these two. Try these. We'll give you another set and see how you like it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have the 3 girls and then 1 boy. So, yeah.
Well, that is great. Well, one of my very best friends, Deborah Hewitt.
Oh, yeah. Deborah and Bobby. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. Y'all are on the street together. So she actually submitted 2 questions to ask you on our follow-up. So, and y'all's house is beautiful, by the way. I pass it when I go to her house. Okay, Keith, let's just start. How did you get started in the food industry?
Okay, so the food industry really started, well, I had my very first job, which only lasted a day, pretty much a day and a half, was really I guess it's not food. I guess, I don't know. Do you consider ice cream food?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it lasted a day. So I was working at Baskin Robbins, and I took a gentleman's order wrong. And so the boss terminated me the same day. So that didn't last but a day and a half. I got trained and I was fired.
I'm sorry,
so
that's mean. I don't understand. Everyone makes mistakes. What was he just?
Well,
wow.
I don't know. He didn't like that mistake.
Okay.
So then I got to kind of reintroduced to it after that was my first job at 15. Then I started bagging groceries and cutting grass and doing all the, the more labor kind of stuff. Well, when I was at Jeff State, my sister had applied at, and I'm going to date myself. Kmart had a cafeteria back years and years ago. People who don't even remember, there was a Kmart. They used to have a cafeteria. So my sister filled out an application, and she had already found a job at Southern Progress and Southern Living. And so my mom said, well, I have a son that's not doing anything, which was not true. I was actually trying to go to school. And so I went up there and just really fell in love with Rick. I'll never forget the manager's name. His name was Rick. I cannot remember his last name, but he really kind of, I'd say I was more introverted at that time, but he kind of brought me out and got to, put me around women that would, love to cook and love to fry chicken and love to slice tomatoes. And I just kind of, I don't know, something not sparked the food part of creating, but just, I guess,
it the community that you felt around
the community,
food?
the hospitality. Yeah, it was just just them and laughing and building these, terrible salads and shaving this crazy ham that we don't know if it's, I don't know if it's ham or not, but just, just talking and getting to know people. And that was, I think that's what really started it. Then after doing that, I kind of went, back in school and then did some stuff and then ended up getting back in the business, waiting tables, actually waited tables at Olive Garden, started hanging out with some friends of mine from Sanford. And then they were working at Bottega and they said, Keith, we just opened the cafe. You got to come in. You would love it. There was a catch that there were pretty girls and women that came in there. So that was kind of like, okay, I can do that.
Oh,
so that was one of the keys. So went in there, worked, became a WA waiter assistant. I was valeting for a while. I pretty much did everything. And then I found myself managing the bar, bartending, bar back. Then it was a quick time. I was the manager. And there was a young girl who went on vacation for a week and she was the cafe manager. Yeah. And so I went in there and just, they gave me the opportunity to run the show for a whole week. And unfortunately, when she came back, there wasn't a space for her because I became the manager at that time. So I was pretty much there for 10 years. Really just kind of watched the chefs and watched Frank prepare food and like, you know what, this is not just eating and digesting. It's caring and loving and, really kind of nourishing what this farmer has done for his food. He's nourished it, he's watered it, or he's, grown the sheep or whatever. He's nourished those things to benefit us. So we should in turn nourish that and then same thing, nourish our guests. So that was kind of something I picked up on. I was like, that's a little different than, just eating and, next. Yeah. So that kind of came to my senses of like, you know what, food can be passion. You can be passionate about food. And that's what I saw. So Amy, at that time, when I met Amy, she was working at U.S. Airways. So the cool thing about working back then in the air business, airline business, is you could fly for free or you could go standby. So before we married, she'd gone to Greece, came back, and then we were married. And before we started having kids, she said, Keith, I want to take you to Greece. And I had never been out of the country. So I said, hey, why not? So went to Greece, came back, really fell in love with, I always kicked my dad. I'm like, why weren't you Greek? Because I love the community. I love the culture. I love just the passion that they had, not only for life, but for food. So when we got back and I said, Amy, I want to do I feel it's time for me to do my own thing. And, she says, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to, I'm going to stick to, even though I'm not Greek, I want to do like a little cafe like we experienced when we were in Greece. So that's where, Tzatsiki's kind of spawned from. And it was just an idea. And, not being a chef, the challenge was, okay, how do you, but I knew, it's my dad's name's Joe. And I always said, if my dad's an ordinary Joe, if he likes it, probably everybody's going to like it. So I had to make sure that we didn't get too far out to the Greek where you don't kind of alienate yourself to pigeonhole yourself into one category.
Because isn't Greek like, let me get clarification here. Greek, would that encompass Lebanese and all the different,
Well, that's more Mediterranean.
I'm sorry. Okay.
But-
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be more. So for us, it was, encapsulating the areas that we, the little islands that we went to, and taking some of those flavors back. And that's really kind of the inspiration behind Greek. Well, I'll tell you about Grk Street, but that was kind of where we wanted to land. But we knew that we couldn't be, when we first opened, the first 3 restaurants were called Tzaziki's Greek Flair.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And so when we started, growing the business and expanding the business, I'll never forget this. Amy and I were flying back from Florida, like Orlando or something. I don't know why, but we were flying back from Orlando, and I think I had on a T-shirt or a hat that said Tzaziki's on there.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady next to me, we were flying back from Birmingham, and the lady next to me, she says, "Oh my God, I love Tzaziki's." She goes, "But my husband doesn't eat Greek food." And I'm like, I said, "Does he like potatoes?" "Yes." "Does he like a salad?" "Yeah." "Does he like grilled chicken?" "Yes." Well, that's Tzaziki's. But in his mind, the Greek was, maybe was it bad
The
lamb
olives.
or too much garlic? Yeah, or
Mhm.
too much olives. I mean, I've got one of my buddies who loves Tzatziki's, but he hates olives, so he'll
That's
get the
my
balsamic.
husband. Yeah.
So he hates the olives, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but those are things that we can take out. So we had to make sure when we were creating the menu and the recipes that we kind of, and because we tried to, in Greek they make killer pistachio and moussaka,
Mm-hmm.
and they do their spanakopita a different way than we do, and it's great. And one of my best friends is George Sarris, so a lot of the things I pass through George and say, "George, what do you think?" Because in Birmingham he's more like the Frank Stitt. He's the godfather of the Greek food.
Yeah.
So and I mean, me and George text every day. But
Now,
the
what
challenge is, how do we
restaurant?
break that down?
I mean, I know George Soros, his reputation. I mean, his reputation for food is great. But what restaurant does he still run?
He's got the fish market. He's got the original fish market, which is downtown. Just the one downtown.
Just the one downtown. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so
and
y'all
Georgia-
communicate, and he he does a lot of authentic Greek that maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
There's some of the stuff that we wouldn't touch, but a lot of the true Greek dishes, they're best made at home. Because it's so labor intense. That's like making the spanakopita. It's so labor intense that's something that our restaurant can't do. I mean, I can't spend 8 hours rolling out phyllo dough.
Yeah.
Or making homemade pasta. I would be out of business.
Well, how do you define your food if you say it's not necessarily? You're not saying it's not authentic. You're saying it's what? Simplified?
It's more.
Or it's
what we used to say is it's more original. It's more original. So it's kind of a spin. So when we got bigger, what we noticed that actually I think it was our 4th or 5th store, and it was our very first franchise store. That and this was in Arkansas, and we went to open it up, and I noticed that I didn't know there were a lot of Greeks in Arkansas, but there are. So they were coming in when we had Tzaziki's Greek Flair on the door. They were expecting the pistachio, the traditional Greek, and not they weren't disappointed, but we had to steer them another way. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh no, maybe as we grow, maybe Tzaziki's Greek Flair is again too alienated from other brands. So it's like pizza. You know what you're going to get if you go to pizza or hamburger.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be a little bit more, not have the veto vote. So we want to be more broad. So that's when we changed it to. I decided to change it to the Mediterranean Cafe. So that gives me an opportunity to say, hey, like you said earlier, take some flavors from. Like we do at Grk Street, take some shug, take some different flavors from the Mediterranean, not so much can be Greek, but just taking some other flavors and kind of open the cool thing is that the trains kind of collided with Mediterranean or Tzatziki and the Mediterranean diet. So about that time when we were kind of getting more exposure, the oils were good for you. The feta cheese is good for you. The lettuce, all the Mediterranean diet was kind of, I guess, kind of parlaying with what we were doing. So people saw Mediterranean, they're, they know it's healthy, and
Yeah.
our food is healthy. It is.
Yes.
We don't using nitrates, or we don't use any excess ingredients that we don't have to use. It's all pure and natural, and we make our own Greek. Well, me and Raul were just looking at Greek dressings, and if I could make my own yogurt, I could. But the challenge now is as everybody talks about is the labor built in to what we do.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge.
How would you compare yourself to, because they're also franchised, but Zoe's, and I'm sure you're.
Well, I think, yeah. So, I mean, I know Marcus and Zoe's and John, and I think they sold, gosh, been 11 years ago. So they sold and went through a transition. And, the Zoe's that I knew with the chicken salad, I told somebody this a while back. I said, Zoe's had the best chicken salad. I love their chicken salad. They were really the first chicken salad chick before chicken salad chick was, because they weren't really Greek. They weren't really Mediterranean. So if you notice their path was kind of climbing, going Mediterranean, adding the hummus, adding the sauces, adding, and we were doing that in the beginning. But I think what's happening now with Zoe's is that I love competition, but being bought out by Kava, which is another restaurant group, is the customer of Zoe's that once was, in my opinion, it's going to be a total different flip. It's a total different flip.
We ate there with Deborah and Barb, some friends. We ate there this week, and it's not the same Zoe's. It's no more.
It's different. And that's it's
totally.
And that's what
they
happens.
don't have salsa for the roll-ups. They're and just and they did away. And this leads me to a question someone asked you. I used to buy the Zoe Spice of Life, because if you put it on your chicken at home, it tasted just like chicken at Zoe's, pretty much. Someone asked, would you please sell your spices for Tzatzikis?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. We used to sell it, and I can, people can walk in and get it, or just say, hey, can I have a souffle? We're actually in the process of trying to figure out how to market. We did that for a while. We made those spice bottles, and it didn't move off the shelf. But if anybody personally contacts me, I will give them some of our spices that we use. We use olive oil, lemon juice, and then our Greek seasoning. Well, and that's how we cook all of our chicken, and actually all of our proteins, pretty much.
Well, and Keith, I don't know if other people know, but I mean, I'm an asker. I'm not afraid to ask anything, but I love to make. I mean, if I'm not able to buy it from you all, I need to maybe make it days ahead to take to the lake or to the farm. Y'all have sold just your balsamic for the Friday special, the dressing for the Friday special, which is insanely delicious.
Well, thank you.
And it's just so nice that y'all do those kind of things, because some people are real tight. Restaurants are real tight with their things. And you've also printed, I don't know if you know it, but I tagged you. I've got your balsamic rice. I'm sorry, your basmati rice on the blog, because you put it in the al.com. You shared it years ago.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to do. Yeah.
It's very popular on my blog. I give you full credit. And
well, thank you.
I've tried to copy your new, and it is a fan favorite with everybody I know, is the Tzatziki whipped feta. It's insane.
Oh yeah, thank you.
All right, Keith, let's backtrack just a minute. So you started it in 98, and it grew, and you said your first franchise was Arkansas. How many Tzatziki's exist now?
Right now we have 92.
92?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Whoa. Okay.
So we're all the way out to Boise, Idaho, to West Virginia, to Florida. I mean,
Okay, I had a follower say we want one in Destin, Florida. Where are you in Florida?
So we are in Pier Park, but that's in Panama City. Yeah. And then we kind of jumped for 60 miles, and then we have the Daphne in Mobile. I love the Destin area. I think we have looked at putting one there. There was a little spot there by the Outlet Mall.
What's your busiest Tzatziki's?
Mountain Brook.
Okay. What is your role now? I was talking to Zane, my husband. He's an investment banker. And, he knew that there was some sort of, did you sell, but you're still on? What is your position now with Tzatzikis?
Okay, so Amy and I sold a small stake in the business to bring in more partners to help it grow. I'm still the founder. And at that one point I was, the CEO, the COO and all that stuff. And I'm like, nah, don't want to do that. We need the professionals to do that. I'm just a nice guy that can operate restaurants. So now I have a CEO is Dan Simpson. I have Billy Magruder is my CFO. And then Mike Smith is my COO. So I'm still the founder. So of course, I can never be replaced as the founder. And Amy's my co-founder, and she's more out of the, she's got her life with the kids and taking care of our house. But my daily job is really just, creating recipes, and I still oversee all my Birmingham stores. So I make sure that, my Birmingham stores are operating, profitably. That's not even a word, profitable, and, making sure everything's, running like it was, 24 years ago. And I think because at one time I pulled away and was more or less in charge of franchising and bringing in new franchisees. And they're going to listen to the guy who started the brand when it comes to selling the brand. So, but that was a lot of travel, and I enjoyed my home life. And I was like, this traveling is not for me. So I still assist in some openings. Like we're opening Gardendale November 9th. So I'll be there pretty much all week.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to open a Tzatzikis, they can apply or.
So we have on our website, there's a little a portal, it says curious about franchising or, want to franchise. And then we have Alex does all of our franchising. We have areas that, you can't touch, like nobody could put one in Birmingham, but they could put one in Coleman. And, we would talk to them about being maybe a partnership, because it's, our arm's length is really Birmingham. We learned years ago that we need to be real careful. Even in Tuscaloosa, we own that. It was a challenge for us to manage, even being, daggone 55 minutes away. And so we sold that to one of my GMs and one of his partners, Rusty, and they're successful now. They're killing it.
But they're totally running it the way they want to. You don't have any oversight.
Well, oversight, yes, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have now 4 franchise consultants. And really what they go out and they do is they look and go, okay, how does Keith, they've all worked for me.
Yeah.
They all look through my prism and they say, okay, what would Keith say about this? And so all the things that they do go into the store, of course, they want to help support the store, but they're looking for taste profiles. They're making sure the rice is done right, the balsamic tastes right, the pita bread's not burnt, the quality. So, because that's, blue chairs and the sign, it's all about the food. This is not about Keith and what we created in Amy. It's about the quality of the food. And that's where we have to make sure that, even in Birmingham, I have to hold that standard of, is your Friday pasta or signature pasta right every time? And I know it's not. I know, because we're humans and we make the food. That's our biggest challenge is yes, take it. You got a recipe, but are you going to follow it to its end? And are you going to serve it with kind of the passion that I did and still do, for 20 something years?
Well, I will say I love cooking, and it's hard for me to want to go out on a weeknight because I just think I can do most things better at home. But when we eat out or just do takeout, it's almost always Tzatziki's. It's always consistently good. Healthy choices, and we always get the same thing. What's your favorite thing at Tzatzikis?
I steer right now. I go through these phases.
Yeah.
That I'll go, I'll eat this. And now, honestly, I eat, like the other day for lunch, I had the beef sandwich. Last night for dinner, I had hummus and then our spicy feta from Grk Street. And we'll see but right now, and it's been my favorite for a while, is our grilled chicken kebabs. And instead of using the tzatziki sauce,
those are so good. Yeah, they're so good. They're different from the other, like if you get the chicken feast or the chicken kebab.
It's the char. Yeah.
I love that.
Those are my favorites. And I dip it in the chutney aioli instead of the tzatziki sauce. I just love the sweetness of that chutney. So that's kind of my new thing right now. Well, I've been in that for about 6 months. So
that chutney that you get if you order the pork tenderloin.
The pork. Yep. That's the same chutney. Yeah.
Well, that leads me to another question. Your neighbor, Deborah, what about adding to the menu that fabulous lamb chili you made for the Inverness Country Club chili cook-off? Evidently, Bobby took some of that home to her. And
Oh yeah. Well,
and
I'll tell you this.
she
That is
said
going to
add
be.
that to the menu.
Yep. Well, it's going to be at Grk Street.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
we're always just. He just left to go make the recipe to make sure we got it all. You know,
oh,
hitting
the
in all
lamb
cylinders.
chili.
The lamb chili. Yep. Yep. So
Okay.
we're
Well,
going to do that
tell
at
us.
Grk Street.
All right, tell us about, I mean, I could talk about Tzatziki's all day, but go ahead, tell us about Grk Street. Now, unfortunately for those watching and listening, unless you live in Birmingham, there's no Grk Street yet.
There's no Grk Street. Yep.
But are you planning to expand?
We are. We always look
But-
for an opportunity to build. People look at it and go, well, you build 92 stores at Tzatzikis, and while some of them, I'd say we, because I'm part of it. We may have not picked the right location. So some of them aren't as strong as they are in Birmingham. But again, it's all about people. It's all about managing your business and how much you're going to be involved. So we have one at Grk Street, and last night it was awesome. We did the spirit night for Oak Mountain High School, and it was success. I loved it. So we got a lot of not new guests in there. So Grk Street was basically, an idea. So
First of all, this is great. This is where people want to follow it. I'm wearing my Grk
This is a
Street.
hat.
Okay, it's GRK. And follow y'all on Instagram. It's at GRK _. I'll put it in the show notes. But love Grk Street. So go ahead and tell, why did you start Grk Street? Tzatziki's is wildly successful, keeps you plenty busy. Why did you decide to start Grk Street?
That's the $1 million question. I don't know. Honestly. So we found, we live right there in Inverness, and I saw we used to go to the little Daylight Donuts.
Yeah.
And it's a small little 1,200 square foot with a pickup window. And, during COVID, we really saw our model, it's back, I'd say it's kind of back to normal now. Our model change where, no one's eating in and everything's carry out and dine in. We did so much curbside and doing this and doing this. And so we saw that need to just kind of basically open a window and hand it to someone.
Yeah.
But I also found that it takes a lot of people and a lot of moving parts to manage at Tzatziki's and to do all the prep, which it's still strenuous on us. So our team is great, very fortunate to have the employees that we have. But I saw, how do we take maybe a type of Tzatziki's and kind of narrow it down, break it down. And so instead of taking our Tzatziki's menu and just making it smaller, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to take the flavors that you got when you're in Athens, Greece, and that's the streets. That's where the Grk Street came from. Is that if you're in Athens, Greece, and you're walking down and you're going to the Parthenon, you're going here or there, and there's always a Euro shop. There's always Euro, or somebody's in there. They're making the Euro. So, and I love that flavor. And so, and there's a lot of questions. People say, well, it's not true. You're not giving me the lamb Euro. They want the spit. And years ago,
mean they want to see the meat cut off of the
they want. Yes, they want to see that. That's because that's traditional Greek food. I mean, that's the way. When I was in Greece with George a couple of years ago, we were there for Easter, and it was amazing. I mean, they were I couldn't put a whole a whole lamb on a spit, but that's what they were doing and shaving it off. I mean, and that's what they like to see. So, and that's what you get when you're in downtown Athens. Or even some of the smaller ones who have a small little city scene. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna go to my partners at Grecian Delights, and so they process and they make all the stuff authentic. It's authentic Greece. It's a Greek family, Pete Parthenis and Anthony, great families, and so I wanted to partner with them because they have the best product. And I said, hey, let's sit down and give me some flavor. This is what I want. This is the flavor profile that I want, that I need, that I remembered. And of course, call George Saris. Hey, George, come over and try this. Tell me what you think. And so that's what we did. So Grk Street was basically just an idea from the flavors of Greece, of Athens. And I just wanted to bring it to, when you're in Greece, they don't have, dining rooms that, seat 100 or 25, 30 even people. It's typically you take it, you got a wrap, you go sit out on the curb, or you sit on a picnic bench, or you sit, maybe at a bar stool at the counter, you eat it and you leave. So that's what we kind of said, well, we could do that with Grk Street, is make everything to go, have the pickup window, and have people call in, get the app, or now we're using the third party the DoorDash, Uber Eats. So now you can just place your app, boom, pick it up. Like you said, you went to the Jim, you went to the window and my son just handed you the food and you take off. I miss the interaction. I love interacting with people. That's probably my passion still is just I love, because I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of the food here. I'm proud of the food at Grk Street and Tzatzikis. Even though there's food at Grk Street that we don't make like we do at Tzatzikis, it still has the flavors that I approve. If that makes sense.
Well, and I want to give kudos. Now, Grk Street's newer, so I don't know that the pandemic, you really weren't operating. Were you during the
We're
shutdown?
not, no, ma'am. Okay. Well, and this second round, I guess we were, but yeah.
Well, but I will tell you, and we were having a discussion with friends the other day, the two places in Birmingham that we feel did beautifully keeping the food coming during all the shutdowns was Perry's Steakhouse and y'all.
Oh, wow.
You had it going on, and we are friends with, she used to be the manager at Perry's, and she said it was just a priority. They figured out how to make it work, and y'all did too. I mean, just the drive up and the curbside, it just worked. And your management must just be next level, because to do all that, I mean, I've drove up once and there were cars just lined up, but it went quickly. It wasn't like you sat there forever. And even now your takeout is so seamless, Yeah,
it's just, I mean,
I'll
again,
make it so easy.
Well, thank you, but we're not perfect. And so it's, again, and we're dealing with people and not robots. So, it can be a challenge. Sometimes we miss, somebody sitting outside. We miss them because we're so busy focused. And then, with the labor now, I mean,
what's happening with the labor? Are y'all struggling in that area?
We were a couple of months ago, about 4 months ago. I've never felt so overwhelmed in the 24 years I opened my business. But now it's our employees honestly make really good money, and that's thanks to us paying them well, and then also the gratuity that our patrons, they do tip well, and so it makes a big difference in why I don't have hardly very little turnover. Very fortunate with that. I mean, I've got employees here I'm at Lee Branch now that I think the least years vetted here would probably be 3. And then I've got folks that even Raul that's been 18 plus.
Wow.
15 years working here, 18 years. I mean, I've got Juan who works at Grk Street, been with me for 18 years.
Well, that shows you're doing something right. And I will tell you, I'm so glad to hear about the tips, that people are good tippers here in Birmingham.
They're very well.
And I can tell you to whom a lot of that can be attributed. And you probably know what I'm going to say. Who preaches that a lot about being a good tipper, a good pay it forward? Chris Hodges with leaving. How many of those cards get left? With the give a little extra. I mean, he's preached that and been such an inspiration about always being a generous,
just a
giver.
Good steward. Yeah, just a steward of the word. Yeah, that's I think that's where I believe in my God. I believe He gives me the strength every day to do this, because this is not an easy job, and and you got to be good to people. And it's people. I actually had a phone call yesterday with one of my supervisors here. He's moved up to Pennsylvania, and he called me, and when I saw him, I'm like, oh my gosh, Adam, what's happening? And he says, man, I miss you. I miss, and I may get teary-eyed talking about it, because we're passionate about our people, and I love our employees. And when Adam called me and said, if I come back, would I have a position? I'm like, are you kidding me? Of course, we will make a position, because you dedicated a lot of your time and 10 years of your life to my, helping you help me. I can't do this alone. I've got, 300 employees that, yes, they do cause me a lot of stress, but at the end of the day, they help build my brand and help build my business and keep cooking our food and making. So, and I tell people this all the time, it doesn't run. It can run without Keith. If I died tomorrow and God called me home, guess what? At 11 o'clock, the doors are still going to open. The passion has got to carry on. And, that's kind of like, you have to do that. And so, and I hope that, again, we preach and we pray, the connection. We have our core values and Tzatzikis, connection. the challenge, the details. To me, my biggest is the connection. Is that giving back, getting in with the community. I mean, that's how we created and grew the brand. Is you have to give back. I've been given a lot in my whole life. Of course, nothing I didn't earn. I've earned everything, and my dad will tell you the same. Growing up in Inslee in Central Park, and I've got 2 other siblings, and my dad made $35,000 a year, and I never was hungry. It was, he gave me the word of God. He took me to, him and mom went to church we went to church every Sunday. So instilled all that foundation in me that, this wasn't free. I did not grow up with a silver spoon. I knew that there was a better life other than, maybe working in the coal mines or working at U.S. Steel. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Some of my good friends do and still do. But that was not my path. My path was to connect with people. And so in our compass, culture compass, connection, that's where I fall in place.
Well, and I just, your story and just listening to you, Keith, you watched Frank Stitt and how he thought about where the food came from, the farmer or whoever owned the raised the cattle for the meat. And that you absorbed that. And so you're looking behind you, you're looking in front of you, you're looking at your customers, your employees, and it's working because you're looking at people. You're not just looking at a business.
Right.
And I know people who, I know many people would agree with me. Many of our long conversations with family and friends take place after church at Tzatzikis, where we sit there and we have those memories. I mean, it's a place that is near and dear to the hearts of so many people. It's where we go. I mean, after church, wow, the lines, I don't know.
It's crazy. Yeah.
We race day. Out. If we know we're going to Tzatzikis, we race because it lines up. But
that's what I'm worried about Gardendale, because the Gardendale First Baptist Church is right by our back door.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, this, and of course I had a great meeting last week with the mayor, Stan, out there, and then his chief of police.
Yeah.
And he's like, Keith, you better be ready. And I'm like, because, you said it, is that I think the same thing is that while the world is changing and speeding up, and you look at the restaurants where you feel comfortable, and while we as a business, square foot matters, is that I look at our guests from 24 years. I've seen employees that I have hired, and I've met their babies. I mean, I've seen their children, and they're eating Tzatziki. So and I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, but there's brands out there that will not hold up to generations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so where I think Tzatzikis has done a good job is holding up to generations. And the challenge is, can we keep doing this? I think we can, but I enjoy, I came in last night to pick some pita for Grk Street. It was, the place was packed. And when I come in on Sundays, and I love seeing the crowds and the people talk, because that's where, it's either you can do business deals on the golf course, or you can have memorable meals, whether it's home or at Tzatziki's or anywhere else around a table. That's how Jesus did it. You got to do it around the table with food. So
that's amazing.
I don't know. I think our world, years ago, I'll tell you a quick little story, is that years ago, had a franchisee said, where are we putting TVs? And I said, there are no TVs. And this is 24 years ago. Remember, before iPhones and everything else. I said, we don't have TVs in Tzatziki's. Why not? I said, well, we want the conversation between the family to exist. It's like at dinner table, my dad always said, I would glare at the TV or whatever, Andy Griffith or whatever was on, and turn the TV off. We're going to turn the TV off when we have dinner. This is about the community. This is about our family, eating together and talking. And so that's why I said there are no TVs in Tzatzikis. We don't need that. Unfortunately, the iPhone has taken the place of the TVs. And it drives me and Amy crazy when we're having dinner, we're talking, we don't have the phones, and we see couples, like, are they texting each other? You've got to connect. And in the world's fast-paced world, people eating in their cars, going through the drive-thru, I don't want to take away that connection, that community of dining together. I want to make sure that we do have dining rooms that we can still come together. And if you don't have that little bit of peace and a little bit of downtime, I don't know, life is a wreck.
Absolutely. And like I said, that is why I think if you had to ask me, where is your typical go-to after church? It's always Taziki's because everyone likes it. You've expanded. I know you expanded both the Lee Branch and the one we go to, Colonnade.
The Colonnade, we've expanded. It's crazy.
I mean, there's room. Somehow it works. I
It
don't know.
worked.
And then
Our sales
outside,
went up when we expanded. So since opening, we've expanded the Colonnade, Mountain Brook, Lee Branch, and Chase Lake. And of course, now it gives people more seating. And there was a challenge that when we first opened, we were 1,100 square feet and we set 45 people. You had to time it right. Now it's still busy, but with the space, you don't have to time it is like you said, leave early for church. You better be the first one in the car, or I'd come in here after church and about 11 o'clock and there's people waiting to get in, which is a good thing.
At
oh
11,
my gosh.
right?
Yes, ma'am. It's a great thing. And I never want to change that.
Well, let me just say this too, Keith, because I'm all about giving practical tips. For anyone who lives near Tzatziki, I want to give you a great tip. Deborah and I think it was last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, a friend of ours, that there was a health issue and family were coming in from out of town, back and forth to the hospital. And we knew they needed food that they could didn't have to cook. They could grab it. So Deborah and I ordered a huge tray of your roll-ups. We added sauteed onions. We always do that because it comes with the salsa. That doesn't have to, you can heat it or you can pull it straight out of the fridge and eat it. So a big tray of that, and then a big tray of the Friday special without the chicken. And then we did the whipped feta. And when I tell you, they went on and on, because all of that could be pulled right out. It could be left out for several hours and still taste great. They went on. And that's so easy. Deborah had it called. She called it in, picked it up at 11, had it at their house at 11:30, and we were done. We didn't lift a finger. They were taken care of. I mean, that's a great thing to have if someone needs food. The food is just, it's delicious, but it's also not just something perishable in 30 minutes that's not going to taste good.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yep, I do.
Travels
And that's where,
well. You can carry it to the beach, my daughter's engagement party. They catered Taziki's because all the kids love it. Everybody loves it. And and y'all make catering so easy. But so what next? If you could wave a magic wand, where would you like to see Taziki's and Grk Street and Keith and Amy in the next 5 years?
Well, our goal by next year is to hit that 100 mark, the 100 rest store. Okay. Grk Street, I'd love to see grow. It's really based on, my growth where I'd like to see it personally, but reality is that, can we find the people to work? That's been a challenge. So, I'd love to have 100 restaurants. I'm getting old now. I would like to kind of scale back. Once I get my kids out of college, I want to keep traveling. I love to travel with Amy. We have fun. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have Taziki's or I had to stop. There's some days I go, I want to be finished, but what would I do? I mean, I love I love our employees. I love working with, our managers. I love training up. I love teaching people the business and, making better leaders. So
that leads me to your organization, your flagship Hope Project. That's your big, not ministry, but outreach. Tell us about Hope Project.
Yeah. So Hope, and actually it's ironic you mentioned that. I'll tell you what's happened today. So Hope is basically, it stands for acronym is Herbs Offering Personal Enrichment. And that's just, helping the special needs. We have a lot of the special needs at work in Tzatziki and giving them an outlet after high school, because the challenge is, what do they do after high school? And a lot of them just sit home and watch videos and play video games. So the challenge is to keep them working. And, my whole thing on Hope is that, I didn't create it just for the kids. I created it for the parents. There's a lot of parents out there who sacrifice every day. Their child may have severe Down syndrome or Asperger's or whatever. So if I can sacrifice, and it's not sacrificing for me, if I can give that child 3 hours and teach them a skill, whether it's roll silverware, clean windows, and hold them accountable, then I can give 3 hours back to that parent. Because God has blessed me with 4 great kids. I don't know what it would be like to have that constant 24/7 care for a child. So I thought if I could help the child grow, mature, take responsibility, and also give that mother 3 hours or 10 hours a week or even 12 hours a week to pray, meditate, iron her clothes, whatever she needs to do, just cry, whatever she needs to do, then I can help that parent out. We've been blessed, like again, with the kids that, even though we do know stress with children, just knowing that child that's 26 or 30 years old, it's a child for life. I mean, it's not someone who's going to drive themselves to work or someone's going to, get married and live on their own. They're going to need that continual support with the parent. So that's kind of what hope was based on that. But the herbs part is having the schools around us, a lot of them, most of them in Shelby County, that grow the herbs for Tzatziki. So I know where my basil's coming from. I know where my parsley's coming from. I know where my oregano's coming from. But the killer, here's the top it all off. So I had been in cahoots with the mayor of Hoover, Frank Stitt, and at Jeff State, I was just
the culinary.
I'm an alumni. Yes, so they have the greenhouses there. Well, they use 2 of those greenhouses for the city. The planning, they do all this. Miss Kim does a great job with planning in the city and all this for Hoover. But they had 2 greenhouses that were not being used, and they refused to take them down. And I said, what if Tzatzikis and the Hope program, we joined in with Hoover and Jeff State, since they're on the property, and their culinary class, and I'm bringing people all in, and we created a bigger business for a Hope, employ 10 or 20 kids and teach them how to grow our herbs, whether it's and we can even go as far as doing tomatoes and doing plants and doing other stuff for markets. Just gives those children, and I mean, if I had a blank check, I would create that to be a place for them with logistical travel, with just everything, bring all them together and just create this community that would just, light up the world and maybe
that
create
is
this
incredible.
in another. Yeah.
How does someone listening, because I did a podcast a few weeks ago with Unless You, and they.
Yeah, I know those guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's sweet. Yeah.
Amazing. So if someone is listening and they want their child who might fall into that category, do they just contact you? How do you get involved with Hope Project?
It starts in the school level, and you can go onto a Tzaziki's website, and you can we have a submission page, and you can say, "Hey, Keith, I'm interested in Hope. Contact me," and I get all the submissions, so I see those.
Okay.
And so I'll respond. If I know you and you didn't have a good meal and we left something out, you would hear from me. So that's the best way to get in touch with me, through our submission page on our website. Okay. But this is we're looking at maybe, the end of next year, getting this done with with Hoover. Frank is so on board with it. The whole city is on board. Jeff State is, Keith Brown and Libby there at Jeff State are all on board.
And could that be taken to the states where you have other Tzatziki's, possibly, where they
we do have Hope programs in other states that have, the challenge is people. If you have a special needs teacher who just likes to sit on her hands and give the kids coloring books and crayons, then it's not going to go anywhere. But if you had dedicated teachers like we do in Shelby County with Dustin Kleckler and Soli and Cindy Vincent, who helped me start the Hope program, and you have these teachers that are involved with the kids and want to do the curriculum, the Hope curriculum, then it can be done. But it's just like anything. If you don't put passion and desire behind it and a want,
right?
It's just a great idea. Yeah. Everybody has great ideas.
Yeah,
but you need someone to finish the idea.
Well, Keith, listen, I could sit here and ask a million questions. Let me just, I know you are super busy. Okay. Let me just quickly rush through, because people did.
Sure.
Okay. A friend and neighbor of both of us, Sloan. I need the sauteed potatoes recipe and the Greek dressing recipe, please. Do you ever give
the Greek dressing recipe? I can give it to you, but it's so hard to make.
You probably make it in huge amounts, so it's hard.
We have to make it in 5-gallon buckets. The potatoes are easy. We just, we use A-Reds, cut those, toss those in olive oil. We kind of pre-boil them. We still fight that sometimes, but you don't have to pre-boil them. And then we toss them with oregano and fresh lemon juice. And that's basically the potatoes. Pretty simple. I mean, I'll give out any of the recipe people want. But it's, I mean, look at today's market. It's so hard to go in and say, I'm going to make a Greek salad like Tzatziki's. You're better off just going to Tzatziki's because nowadays it's going to cost you a fortune to get all the ingredients. You got to get the mise en place together.
That's exactly right. I can attest to that. Now, tons of comments. They love the chicken soup. That's a hit. So
we'll keep that. And then starting next Monday is our tomato soups coming back.
Oh, good. I've had that. Okay. What seasoning goes on your salmon? And I will say this, Keith, I order the same thing almost every time. I get the salmon feast with rice, no red peppers on the on the salad. And the salmon is phenomenal. Do you mind sharing that? Is that something you will also share? Like someone can purchase it?
Yeah, I mean, all it is, we have our own blend of blackened seasoning. And so we don't put the Greek seasoning on there. It's just a blackened seasoning. But I mean, it's really putting the oil down, right? And then we move that to the char grill, and the char gives it the flavor. That's, the char grill is so important in our cooking. Yeah. The lamb goes there, the beef goes there, but the char grill makes the flavor. And then, we do finish it with the butter guilt. We put a little brush of butter on there, and that's what also makes it.
And the lemon comes through.
And the lemon, yeah.
Your most popular dish, and I know that's hard.
Oh, the signature pasta.
That's your most popular.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, by far. That's, the biggest seller is the chicken feast with rice. That's the biggest seller, but the most popular is the signature pasta. People from Birmingham call it Friday pasta. We changed the name to signature pasta, but that's our biggest seller is the Friday pasta.
It's crazy good. It is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Last thing. What is your best business advice?
My best business advice. You've heard everybody speak about location. Honestly, you got to have the continuous passion and drive to keep it going, regardless whether you feel it's failing or not. And I'm sitting in a failure store. And for instance, when we opened Colonnade, it was busy. It was great. Mountain Brook, super busy. So we were all excited. When we opened Lee Branch, it was a challenge. We were losing money left and right. Mm-hmm. And I told Amy, I said, and I didn't tell you this and very quickly, is that when we went to open Tzatziki, we had no money. We had to borrow against our house in Homewood. And if we lost the restaurants, we would have lost our house. Oh. So failure was not an option. So I had to make sure that we were going to be successful. But the biggest advice is that, if you believe in a product, test it, test the waters. And then, but once you're in, you can't turn back. And it's got to be 100% passion and dedication. You got to, money's easy to get today. I mean, back then, now, after 3 restaurants, the banks were coming to us. I'm like, no, thank you. You didn't help me on my first one. I'm fine now. So that was, for us though, is the best advice is, I come up with all these crazy ideas and they're not all successful, or, I created the Baja Burger. That was.
Oh, I love you created that. That's
yes.
Right. Now, are you still involved in Baja Burger?
Very little, just helping Eric and then when he calls me and giving him my 2 cents. But no, I sold that to Eric and those guys. But
amazing.
But thank you. But I had to, it's standing behind it and making sure. And the challenge today is that I always tell Amy, everything's been created. Everything has been created or invented. So think outside the box, and even if it has, you got to make it the best and you've got to stand behind it. It's just, to me, it's dedication of what you put into it.
Well, Keith, obviously you are and I'm going to send you one. My husband wrote a book, 17 Reasons Your Company is Not Investment Grade and What to Do About It.
I love reading things. Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks about investment grade businesses, and you have one, obviously, and you've done it right. And you obviously love God, you love people, and he's blessed you because you're a blessing. And I'm just so grateful for your time. And
well, thank you. You're welcome.
I think I'm going to be getting takeout today. I'm grateful after talking about all this. But Keith, anyone is interested in the Hope Project, just get with you, and anybody interested in a franchise, get with you. Just reach out.
Anybody needs anything, just get with me.
Get with Keith. He's got it going on. Okay. Well, Keith, thank you. I just appreciate it so much. And you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Appreciate it. Eat Tzatzikis and Grk Street. Tell them all.
Absolutely. That's right.